So in this lesson we will create the texture, a rough texture for this rock. And let me show you the final one. So this is how it looks. We're using a few maps and some brush settings, and that will just do the job. Okay, so let's start. Alright, so we have the rough rock design. Of course you can spend more time in it, but somewhat in an hour this is what you can get. Or even better. So it's time to start texturing it and painting it in ZBrush. But for that, right now it's still Dynamesh. So as you see, this indicates it's Dynamesh. Let me turn this off. I don't want to refresh it now. I think it's fairly okay. So it's time to make a simple mesh of it. So that will be, we will use ZRemesh for this. So I have my settings here. So this is the same thing, geometry and amazing things. Of course, we don't have symmetry turned on. 5 means the end result will be about 5K. Now here's the deal. I will mark this area, so I'm holding down Control and tapping on the history. So I don't save history with the project because it's increasing the file size, and we are so beyond the beginner level, you don't necessarily need it, but I save project files just for convenience. So preferences and under history, and this one is turn on enable saving for whatever reason. So let me turn off this enable and skip loading. So I will just Ctrl Shift and I to save the configuration, and when I'm saving this, it will save without the history. Okay, so this is where we are, and the target polygon count is, I will set it to 2, and this one is marked, so let me hit and run ZRemesh. So it will take some time to load. Okay, so this is the result of the ZRemesh, so let me press Shift F and see how it looks. Okay, I think it's pretty neat. Okay, this is 5,000 points. We can go even lower. I'll use this little half button and give it a try to lower it in half. And this is how it looks. It's still somewhat similar, so maybe if I go with instead of half, maybe this one. Any lower? 4,000. I will go. Try to make it lower, 3. What I'm looking for is to have some edges running inside, okay? Because for texturing, that's what we care. And I think I will not go any lower than this. I think this one looks fine. Okay, so I will keep this resolution. Okay, so this is the active points, 3,000. So that seems to be okay. So now, Control D. And I will use the subtool and project, and use project from history. I have it on my custom here, so project from history, because I use it a lot. And remember, this one only works if you hold down Control and tap on a certain area where you still have the geometry. Okay, so I have the geometry here, Control tap, and this is the history point that's marked. So Control D, subdivide it again, and project from history. And Control D, subdivide it again, and project from history. Okay, so we have some awkward stuff going on here, which one I don't really know what's, but no problem. Let me go back in here, go back to this level, and I will duplicate it, Control Shift D. And this one has the history, this one doesn't. So this is the new one. I will rename it to New Rock. And errors always occur, so don't expect to be lack of errors. They will all present themselves. So now I will just do the same process with ZRemesh. So let me turn off this function, and then the slider will be enabled again, and I will set it to 1 and hit ZRemesh and see the new ZRemesh model. Okay, so this is the new model. This is about 3,200. You have this number here at the top right. Let me see solo mode, Shift F, and looks good. Actually, looks good. Okay, I like this one a lot better. Okay, cool. So leave solo mode, and because we have the underlying mesh, I'm pressing Ctrl D and just simply project all. And let me go to solo mode and see myself what's going on. Do we have errors like we had before? And I think not. So subtool and project all is the same thing here. So I have project all and project history in this area. So Ctrl D again and project all again. And okay, this looks completely different. Someone was stuck. Project all and Ctrl D and project all. And I'm looking for the numbers. It's 300,000. Ctrl D. It's below 1 million. Project all. And yeah, it takes a lot more time. And I will subdivide it one more time. Ctrl D. And that's about 3 million. So 3 million will be great for a 4K texture. So in the end, it's not a necessity to have a 4K texture. In the final, if you have close-ups, that's fine, but for general use, no. But when you are creating that one, you can always dial down. You can always save a lower resolution version. So there we are. This is it. Okay. So we may have some errors. Shift D, and we can clean that up here and there. So that's just smooth it out. I'm using the relax smooth version, which one is shift and start smoothing and then let go the shift. So inspecting errors, shift, let go. And when you press D, you need to sometimes fix it in different resolutions. So shift D, okay. So not just on one resolution, but usually you have to walk up and down and check it for itself. Okay, if there's any crazy weird stuff, we can always go back and repair it, but it's just a good idea to have an eye on it. Okay, I like it very much. So here's the rock chunk. Then what next? Start painting. So 3 million will be just fine. And we need a texture. So BPA paintbrush, and I will use a spray brush, and I will use an alpha for spreading this, and that will be an alpha 08, just to add some spice to it. And we also want to use a texture. Now I have my import button here, so this is again a custom user interface, so you have to enable and drag. This import is actually coming from texture and import. Okay, so it's not my idea, I've seen it somewhere else, but it's really convenient. So I have alpha import here, some alpha features, alpha export here, import here, and also flip and export if I need. I have a color fill and a few more things. Okay, so the brush, the texture I'm looking for is the rock base, rock cracky, and rock highlights. So I have in this mossy area. So these are the detailing parts, and these are the main. And the rock base is kind of a general thing that I'm using. Let me show it in a little bit bigger size. So this is it. Okay, it's a very generic rocky surface form. If you wish, you can look for specific stones, but then you have to collect matching references and everything. But right now, this is just an idea. I'm not going into the geological side of it. So let me go and import. I have the import with the open already rock base, and also want to use it, not just import it. I also want to use it, and just simply increase the size, and I'm spraying this. And right now, what I basically do is I'm just spraying this whole thing over. Okay, I'm not doing any crazy. Let me turn off the lazy mouse, and it's just really quick way to add to it. Okay, so the smaller the brush, usually you have better precision around the edge distortions. So if you spray it from here, these may be stretched out. You can see these stretches. Okay, so this is why if you have a small brush size, you have less of these stretches. You still have them, but usually you have a little bit better control. But what I like to do is just go over it and have a rough, quick, very, very dirty and quick thing just to break up the surface. Okay, just to see the tones. And you can go in with a flat shader, and the flat shader will tell you that, okay, so here we have these issues. Okay, we need to break this up. Yeah, this is not painted yet properly, so we definitely have to take a look at here. And I'm just blasting some textures. Okay, but even if you have some stretches, sometimes it's actually good, because in real rock surfaces you have some stretches like this, so it's absolutely believable in some cases. So let me go back and turn back on to flat shade. Skin shade is showing better colors, but it has some kind of a blue highlight. You can adjust it, of course, but it's not really ordeal. Can you see this is a little bit more neutral? And of course I have this color sampler and shader, so I can play with this if I wish. Most people put it in here, but it's up to you again. You can find it under lighting, and this is you can actually grab this. There's a hotkey for this. I think it's Control P, but it's freezing sometimes. But let me just show it's Control P. Give it a try if it freezes or not now. So this is pretty neat. Yeah, and I'm hitting escape, and there we go. Okay, so Control P. It was freezing in earlier versions. Right now it seems to be working fine, but this is a good visual feedback anyways. So another texture, and that will be the rock cracky. And I will use this rock cracky to create I will use a drag rectangle and use this with a simple, give it a try. Okay, not with this one, just let me go with a simple alpha. Oh yeah. So what I do is I will, on the higher surfaces, I will drag some little bit more rocky areas. Okay, so while this one is kind of a generic, I'm creating some little bit lighter areas. Okay, as you see, so it's just on the elevated surfaces. So I'm focusing on there. If you wish, you can create some smaller ones. Just pull them a little bit light. You can generate texture with it as well. You can sculpt with it as well. So if you turn on Z add and reduce the Z intensity, you can actually just walk in and you can see how it also alters the geometry. So let me turn off the colorize function. So this is also adding some bump to it. Let me increase it a little bit more and see. Can you see it's just adding slightly to the part. So let me go back to colorize. Okay. So sometimes that's also good for creating some roughness. You can see how it's coming from the texture, and then now it's matching with the texture, so which one is nice. It can be nice. Okay, so if there we have too many stretches, I can pull this. Okay, just generating some info. Okay, now these colors are not super different. There's no point to make it so different. This is a fairly dark stone, it's grayish. But if you have lighter stones, of course you want to match the colors in your collection. But as you see in here, I have these gray tones and this to add some darkness. But I will also spray some darker paint in the cracks a little bit. We'll do that as well. Okay, just looking around, see where I can spray this, where we have some two homogeneous surfaces. I can go there and create that look. Okay, again, don't forget to use the flat color, which one is helping you to see that if you want to break up and just add some to the details. All right, going back to the fast shader. It looks good to me. Maybe going in, and this is a little bit stretched. Okay, it's too much. Good. Fine here. Okay, so let me remove the alpha and just simply going with a spray or a color spray and picking a kind of a C. C is for stealing color information. I will pick this darker tone and reduce it down, maybe a little bit of brownish, even more. Color spray is adding this. Let me turn off the add, so it's adding this darkness to it, which one is neat. I want to break it up a little bit more. So now it's just a little bit of a tone effect. And let me see, here we have RGB intensity. If I press U, it's the brush intensity. Yes, it's the RGB intensity. And I have the record here, which one is a little bit confusing sometimes. The record headquarters. So I can just spray this and add some tone. Okay, so this is it basically. It's just adding some tone to give some more plasticity to the shape. So even without rendering, if I want to see the basic model, I want to see the volumes somewhat appear, which one is really good. You can save a lot of render time if you have a smartly crafted texture that actually helps to make the shape easy to interpret. Okay, and you don't really need details everywhere. Some details are created through lights, through interaction, to overlap, and not just by painting it there all the time. Okay, so looking around, see what it goes. Fan, okay, good. Here's some tones. And yeah, going with that. Okay, perfect. Now we can still have textures and infos, and that's aging. So right now this rock looks like fresh, and we can add some life to it by altering the textures as well. Okay, I like the general idea. So we can go with a flat color and see what we have. Oh, it's fairly neat. Okay, maybe this area is a little bit left off, so I can just add some spraying in it. And now going back to Drag Rect and going back to maybe a standard one and import the new, and that's the rock mossy. Now I will use the brush and just drag it out and see for myself. Intensity should be a lot higher, and yep, start working on it. The color is there, intensity RGB working fine. The texture should be there, it's not loaded yet. Okay, so this is why. There we go. Okay, and I think it's better if I'm just dragging it out. Yeah, perfect. And maybe intensity is still high. Okay, and just looking for some areas. Now here's what you can do. You can turn on topological or a cavity mask, and that is that is blending this tone a little bit better. So now I have these darker areas. Maybe this is a little bit more wet, but here you can drag it and it will recognize how the cavities are presented, and you can actually paint on the highlights. And as you see, it's not painted in the bottom area. We can hold down Alt key and that inverts. So now the crack is filled with this kind of a mossy texture, which one I really do like. Where we have cracks, here we have another crack. So I like the idea to have those there, and that's deeper in it. So these are sitting there, just to add some life to it. Okay, so and going in. This is the default cavity mask. I haven't adjusted anything. This cavity mask, by the way, is going from brush and auto masking. And here's the cavity mask. So that's where you find it. But again, because it's really useful, especially if you are painting textures, but not just for that, it's a good idea to have it at hands. So I'm pulling this up maybe here and there. We don't want to add too much, okay? And we don't want to make it one-sided. The reason we are trying to work on every side in a similar way is because if you add some very strong character to a part, it will be easy to recognize in the end when the bunches are, when these are populated. Okay, looks good. Here we still have to add some moss at the bottom. Never forget about the bottom. Okay, this is a sculpture, so it's not just one-sided. Rotate all day long. Intensity is too much, so we'll reduce it. Yep, it's just adding a tone. And it will appear. You don't have to go crazy about the intensity. Okay. It's not like full-grown moss on it. It's something else. Whoa, what we have? Oh yeah, we have a crack here. Good. Okay, now how to make it a little bit better. So still improving. Now what to do? It's time to import the other texture. This is the rock highlight. And yes, we have to load it. And now I will use another masking technique. Let me show this. So by default, if you start grabbing, let me turn off cavity. If you start grabbing and intensity up, Z add. Oh yeah, this is what I'm looking for. So if I'm start grabbing like this, it will go everywhere. It will go beyond the marks and everything. What we can do is we have a brush specialty mask in depth. We can enable depth mask, and this little icon represents the brush itself. Now this is the surface. This area is above the surface, and this area is below the surface. So when you start painting this is the surface itself. This side is the above, this is the inside. So when my brush starts, it actually samples outer side and inside as well. Now if I'm using the brush and adding this, it will recognize the outer side, but it will almost neglect the inside. So when I'm dragging it out, can you see how it stops there? So I drag it out and it just stops. It not stretches further. Okay, this is very, very, very useful. Okay, so I'm just looking for the, let me turn off colorize and see this crazy color. So how it creates. So yep, there we are. We have the texture. And okay, colorize going back, and just create a couple things. Add some highlights. Look around the edges, and because this filter is on, it will just stop at the edge, and that is that is helps to create this faceted look of that's natural to stones. So I'm going there. It samples where my brush touches, and again, that helps a lot. If you want to make it more usable in some cases, or you don't have that good judgment, you can also use this drag dot. The main difference with drag dot is samples the brush size, so when you start pushing it, the texture will be always the same size. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but this is one thing that you can use. So if you have to match to a real life size something, that could be good. I will use the Drag Rect because I like to have more control over it, and just pull these areas. And maybe intensity is too much, but at least you see in the video pretty well where it goes. Okay. And you don't have to use super high resolution textures for painting this. You can use very low resolution textures, sometimes even textured with, again, crappy quality, because you're blended them, you're overlapping them, can do wonders. And small sizes, ZBrush is a little bit different than other applications, so it is not as, it eats a lot of texture information pretty well and consumes it pretty well, so you can, it has its limitations, but that's a good thing. You don't have to store terabytes of textures and just browsing and browsing for the perfect quality texture, because you can just load it in and mix and just do the thing you're looking for. So that's a highly beneficial part of it. Okay. So yeah, that's looking nice. Okay, it's quite believable. Looks like a rock chunk. Now what else? We can still work on some areas. So I will just go back to a simple spray and this one, and remove the texture using a lighter whitish color and using a smaller brush size. And actually you can just simply create some highlights. Okay, like marks when you're climbing a rock, or when you grab something on the rock, and just here and there some areas. And let me look at this spray. If you lowered it down, you can even make it more detailed. Just some edges, walking up, and look around. As you see, constantly rotating. So I will not go anywhere. It's 28 minutes in the video, so I will just finish it up, having a few touch-ups just to play with the pen, and there we are. So this is a rough rock we can work with. Now it's time to unwrap it. Now, yeah, you can unwrap it in ZBrush, but for better, more efficient unwrapping, it's mostly used under a third-party application. So some people like to do it in Maya. 3ds Max use it mostly, but here we go with Blender, because most of you have access, and there's actually a good transition between ZBrush and Blender. So let me set that up just in a second, and I will explain how it goes. So the Go Z and Go B part will be the next part of the video, but be prepared, you need a Blender 4 to run the plugin properly. Alright, so see you in the next time. Goodbye.